African-American, 6'2", and ripped, CT was a former T6 Red Squad member, and before that, an NCAA Division II wrestling champion and martial arts specialist who had grown up in Compton, California. He'd left, he joked, because he got tired of being shot at without combat pay. He'd recently joined Black Cell and was training to replace Davis as the team's comms chief, as Davis was planning to transfer to an intel job at ST-6's base in Dam Neck Naval Base at the end of the month. Said he wanted to spend more time with his family and surf. Crocker would miss him. They'd survived all kinds of catastrophes together: helicopter crashes, enemy attacks, captivity, even an avalanche. Now his right-hand man Mancini, a.k.a. Manny, or by his radio alias Big Wolf, pointed his MP-7A1 submachine gun at the driver and used his left hand to indicate to the occupants of the pickup to get out. "Refugees," he said sympathetically as a squat woman with a long burgundy scarf tied over her head kicked open the passenger door, and the door slid off its hinges and crashed to the ground. "Nice ride," Eckel commented. "At least they made it out," Crocker said. The SEALs had stopped dozens of similar vehicles so far, 6 weeks into their deployment in Kurdistan. Untold thousands of other Syrian refugees hadn't gotten safely out. Instead, they'd been robbed, raped, and murdered and hung from lampposts and trees by Syrian armed forces, gangsters, or one of the myriad armed opposition groups to the regime of Syrian President Bashar Assad. Around 10 million of them had fled that country since the start of the civil war in 2012, creating a human rights disaster of epic proportions. Crocker had seen the teeming, sprawling refugee camps in Jordan and Turkey, and the kids playing in dust-filled alleys between prefabricated pods that served as temporary shelters. Heartbreaking and hopeful at the same time. Kids in the most difficult situations found ways to amuse themselves. "Let's get this over quick and go help the cougar," Crocker growled. He'd grown to loathe Syrian President Assad for committing genocide on his own people and couldn't fathom why the rest of the world had watched this catastrophe unfold for years without doing anything to stop it. Out of the cab of the truck stepped a middle-aged woman, 2 teenage boys, and a 5-year-old girl clutching an unclothed plastic doll. They all shared the same thick, dark, crescent-shaped eyebrows and looked like they'd slept in their clothes. The teenagers stood behind the woman, who Crocker assumed was a relative, with their hands in the pockets of their jeans. Crocker said to Eckel, "Tell the boys we need to see their hands." The team's operational terp, Zumar, was currently honeymooning with his bride in Beirut, Lebanon, on the Mediterranean coast, so they were relying on their teammate Eckel, an Egyptian-American SEAL who spoke Arabic and some Farsi, which were the chief languages in this part of the world, along with various Kurdish dialects. Eckel addressed the boys in Arabic, and they responded by bowing their heads and then holding their hands up for the SEALs to see. They appeared to be brothers. The older of the two had a few wisps of beard and a fresh, jagged scar on his head and trembled from head to toe. "What happened to him?" Crocker asked. Eckel spoke to the woman, and as she answered, she waved her arms dramatically and contorted her face, indicating objects falling from the sky and something landing on their heads. Her voice shook with emotion until it broke, and she started weeping and sunk to her knees. Crocker pulled her up. He didn't need to hear the translation from Eckel to know the story. He saw the pain in her eyes, and for a second felt the buzz of her desperation reach into his chest. Eckel relayed the details. They were Christians and had been hiding in the suburbs of Aleppo. Her husband had once been a bus driver. They were living in a garage when it was bombed, killing her husband and burying her son. Rescue workers dug the boy out, but he hadn't been the same. They'd sold practically everything they had to buy the truck. Militiamen and roving gangs had stolen most of what was left, and they hadn't eaten in days. All this was